Absolutely, yes, because we know how expensive it is. And the expensive piece is actually a two-pronged problem. It is expensive on the exchange rate piece. It's also expensive on the transaction fee piece as well. So when you're trying to send money, then you're having to do a lot of calculations. Keeping it at a flat fee experience means that regardless of whenever you're interacting with the product, you already know beforehand how much it's going to cost. Giving people that confidence and that security in the solution is what again separates us from everybody else. Absolutely, could we go lower? Yes, it's something that we know because we believe so strongly in the financial model. It's something that if the business makes that possible, it's definitely would be available to customers. Yes.
And lastly, Damisi, I know you're away at the moment, travelling between the continent, but that huge issue that's dominating headlines here in the UK has got to be the cost of living crisis, high inflation. We know it's really hitting homes, but there's new research out this week suggesting that it's impacting people from minority communities much more. Do you worry sometimes, because I know you have lots of executive experience, one of them being at Flutterwave, that sometimes, these domestic issues within the diaspora does affect the amount of money people can send back?
It definitely does. And that's why it's absolutely important that the intended purpose of remittance inflows are used for those purposes. So right now, it's important that if I'm sending £100 to my brother in Nigeria for grocery bills, he's not using that money to buy a phone, right? So it's absolutely important that we're able to make sure that the intended purpose is what people are actually using those remittance inflows for. And that's why the product, again, is really just coming out at this right time, we believe, where if you're sending money for a purpose with the Sendsprint product, you will be guaranteed that the intended purpose will be realized.
Well, Damisi, it's always great to have a female CEO entering a pretty competitive market, especially here in the UK, where those dominant players have been lapping up the success far too long. So I do wish you all the success, and I do hope to have you in the studio when you come back into the capital. Damisi Busari, the CEO of Sendsprint, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Juliana. Enjoy.
Let's stay with our focus on the diaspora, but this time we'll be taking a look at how Nigerians living in the UK are coping with the soaring cost of living crisis that has gripped millions of households. High inflation has been forecast to cause the biggest drop in living standards in decades, but data suggests black and ethnic minority residents may be particularly vulnerable. The New Economics Foundation think tank recently published an analysis warning that black households will experience an average increase in the cost of living 1.6 times greater than their white counterparts. This is just one issue that my next guest, Cornelius Wole Sonwo, the director of Nigerian School Foundation UK, has pledged to tackle, alongside the support his group has been offering to families living in Nigeria too. Wole Cornelius Sonwo, it's an absolute pleasure having you in the Channel's Business Global studio today. I've got to say, Nigerian community groups in the UK, we're not short of them. However, the NSF are very, very busy, and I know you've done some amazing work during the pandemic. But for our viewers that are not familiar with the Nigerian Schools Foundation, what exactly is it you do, apart from the headline, which is obviously helping people send money home, helping with school fees, helping to train teachers?
Thank you very much, Juliana. Thanks for having me. Nigerian Schools Foundation NSF UK stands for Nigerian Schools Foundation. We've been in existence for about 10 years now. As you said, we do more than just send money back home. Our vision is actually quality education for all Nigerians. And our members, when we started off in 2012, we only had about 9 members. We've grown off to be about 54 currently. And all our members, do fundraising activities for infrastructure development back in Nigeria, to support teachers, to support the students as well. So we've been, doing all of that. So NSF is more than that. I'll give you some grim statistics actually about Nigeria, and that tells you the reason why we're involved. I'm sure you've probably had it bandied around that 10.5 million kids are actually out of school. Do you know
10.5 million?
Million, yeah.
Is that all?
They're out of school. Do you know that that's the size of the population of London, right? At one point, in Nigeria, they had a shortfall of about 500,000 teachers that they needed. Again, that's roughly the number of teachers in the public schools here in the UK. And also, if you look at the teachers to students ratio, here is about maybe 17, about half of what it is in Nigeria. In Nigeria, it's about 37 point something. So those are the reasons that, we continue. We know that the country is resource challenged, and these are the reasons why we continue to do what we can from here. Our stakeholder intervention includes, as we said, our members, they fundraise and they do all of that. We also intervene in terms of we send recycled books home. I don't know whether our your viewers would have seen some of the book drive activities that we do. So far, we've sent about 7,000 books home. And apart from that, we also have a consultancy service here. We try and upskill the teachers back home. So we set up a project called NSF, Excellence in Education Development. Again, we try and influence the policymakers. From here, we do have education seminars as well. In fact, we have one happening in October, in which there's another grim statistics. There's about 3.2 million disabled kids in Nigeria that are not in formal education. Maybe about 4% of them are in formal education. Here in the UK, they have at some point about 1.2 million, and all of them are in formal education. So we are doing what we can to try and support education back in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So although you may see us differently, but that's all we do.
No, it's great that you're trying to relieve the burden. And just to go back to my point about the 10.5 million, I said, is that all? Only because, of course, you can imagine we've been discussing what the pandemic has done to children's education in Nigeria. And I think some of those statistics have widened.
Exactly. Those at some point in time.
At some point in time, yes. I want to talk about what you do here, because there were some statistics out earlier this week. The cost of living crisis, you can't get away from it, but unfortunately it's going to impact minority communities more. I know during the pandemic, you kind of expanded your reach to not only helping Nigerians in Nigeria, but helping Nigerians in the UK, because we also need help. Some help as well.
True. So true, Juliana. We do have a community purpose here as well. So we try and connect Nigerians in the diaspora here. And we do that through promoting awareness, through sporting activities, education, and other social interaction. COVID, the lockdown, created a different dynamics for us. So we had to look at our model and change it slightly. We had no choice but to assist the community. There were all kinds of things happening at the time. Our activities mainly, where they're socially involved. You need some kind of social interaction. And with COVID, you couldn't really do that. So all we did was that we diverted all our resources, and then we started having a webinar series called Let's Talk About It. In that series, we talked about the things that matter to the community from, at the time, because everybody was under lockdown, from cybersecurity, health issues, insurance matters, finance as well, finance and social inclusion.
Wale Cornelius Somwo, the director of the Nigerian Schools Foundation, as well as other professional hats that you wear. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, Robin Gwynn, the former senior British diplomat and director of the business consultancy firm Whiteleaf Solutions, will be joining me here in the studio to discuss the fallout following last week's elections in Kenya, and I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All this after the break. Do stay with us.